Because we, you know,
Can you bring it back?
if we, only if we can get the legislature to pass an amendment.
So why don't you do a petition or activate for this to bring?
We have,
What he's here for.
anyway,
Yeah, let's
Next question, Marcy?
I don't know if this is preferential rent. My neighbor moved because the rent was going up to $1,400 and it was too much for him to pay. And the new neighbor that came in was told her apartment was $1,700, which is a ridiculous increase since there was almost no improvement to the apartment, basically a shellacking and a quick white paint. But because she couldn't afford it, they lowered her rent to $1,450, but made her buy her own refrigerator and stove.
Can you have her call me?
Yeah, she won't, because she's afraid. Because she lost her job, she went on welfare, they harassed her, she's back to working, and she's paying the mortgage. And she got a new lease, and the increase was 0% for $1,450. But is that preferential rent?
Yes, the previous tenant probably had preferential rent. And
Sounds
you're
like
No, he
it.
to
didn't,
her.
because the man that was there before that was probably paying $800, they semi-renovated.
But you
went
just
with
said that
11.
somebody moved because their rent went up to $1,400.
Right, so the new person, they wanted 17, they rolled it back to
Yes, that is
$1,450.
preferential. That's
That's a
exactly what we
preferential
mean
rent.
by that.
But how could they raise it to 17 if they did no improvement?
they get a 20% vacancy bonus every time the apartment becomes,
And
so
they
20% of
lie.
1,400, how much is that?
Understand, these
Yeah.
people
That's
lie.
$280. They don't have to do a lick of work.
Rent increase zero?
Wasn't, no, she's,
That's for renewal.
Wait,
she's gonna call you, I'll make her call you.
yeah, you have to understand, these people lie. I have a client who moved into an apartment, another apartment within the building. That apartment on paper was going for like $2,150, and they gave it to them for $1,750. They came to Marco Crespo's office, and he showed me his lease. But the mistake that they did was in your writer, there's a sheet where it breaks down how they justify the rent. The landlord said that he spent $36,000 in improvements in this apartment. I went to that apartment, and that apartment looked like shit. If he made improvements, it was to another apartment because it wasn't this one. We did an overcharge. This man is getting back over $100,000. Triple damages because we proved that they did that maliciously. There were improvements made. Very, disgusting. They were disgusting. They lie all the time.
She's gonna call
All
you,
right.
I have to drown.
Marcy, we're gonna move on to the next question. Right before we do, Michael doesn't, I don't know if he has time to talk about his Tenants Pack fundraiser, which is tomorrow, but I wanna do a little collection, and I'm gonna start the collection. It is $25
Uh-oh.
for the, no?
Not for tennis, I can't do that.
You can't do that.
Wait,
Cannot
we
take
can't
on
do-
anonymous
We can do that
contributions.
here.
No,
Cannot
it
take
can only be checks, right? Okay, so can we give out flyers?
Campaign, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so tomorrow I'm sorry, I get carried away. Tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. There are flyers here. It is as little as $25. Tenants Pack supports pro-tenant candidates in the Senate and Assembly.
Yes.
In the State Senate and Assembly. I'm going to pass out the flyers. If you're interested, please let me know. But this is a very important cause. It's tomorrow at 322 West 48th Street from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Again, it's as low as $25. You can make checks payable to Tenants Pack, PAC. And we're going to go on to questions. I'll hand out the flyers. I'm going to go in order of the hands I saw. Brunilda, this gentleman, Pat, and then Mark.
Where's Henry?
Brunilda.
Can't hear you.
I live in my apartment for almost 15 years and I do have preferential rent and I never, really was like, why is preferential rent until they almost took it away. And I said almost because I guess, I think I was one of the lucky ones that I thought about it. This December, the manager, I was I owe rent. So I was fighting, and finally, I didn't have a job, whatever, so I was in court and all that, and I got the money that I owe. But this, when at the same time, that was like in September or something, I was rent to pay back rent, and then I had this. So I spoke to the manager, which, he's nice, and I said, why? The reason that he told me, now I hear that they have any excuse to take their preferential rent, any excuse, but they have any excuse, but his excuse was that since, a couple of years I've been late, they have fees, legal fees. So,
That's
you owe
such a
legal
lie.
fees, the management is losing, so, either you pay the rent or you leave the apartment.
Did you, when you moved in, did you pay a preferential rent when you first moved in?
Yes.
Do you still have your original lease?
Yes. And I
Okay,
think I have
you
my-
might want to check your original lease because this is a sort of a little detail on this thing, but in some cases, the landlord is not allowed to raise the rent from the preferential rent to the legal rent if the original lease, when the tenant first moved in, says that the preferential rent shall be for the life of the tenancy. Now, most leases don't say that. And it's the original lease that controls. That's the way rent stabilization works. So if your original lease says that we're giving you a preferential rent and that shall be in effect for the life of your tenancy, they have to renew you based on the lower preferential rent. But it's the original lease that controls.
I say yes, that I do have my original, but I'm not sure, but I did call the management, and I said I need, the first,
Please.
lease. And they sent me one. And then when I was looking through it, because I heard this, what you're saying before, I didn't find it. But then I thought to myself, I just told these people to send me a lease. What takes them to just erase that little part that I'm looking for? So I was thinking about that. But anyway, I was lucky enough to, beg the manager. I said, listen, just give me a break. Give me at least 1 year of a lease, and I make sure I get my rent. And I did, because it was gonna go from, instead of, it was gonna go 100 from 1080.
Yeah.
It was gonna go to 1260, all of a sudden, and then it didn't. So from 1080, it went to 1117 for a 1 year. But now I'm thinking what's gonna happen, when he expired, because, they might think that, okay, well, we gave you a year, next December I could go and lose my preferential rent.
Unless
So
we
I'm
can
in the
get the law
process of
changed between now and June.
But isn't there rent freeze on 1-year leases?
That's just for renewals.
Right, for
Look,
a
no,
renewal.
the issue here is what's the basis for the renewal. If the legal rent is, let's just say for argument's sake, $1,700 a month, and the preferential rent that the tenant is paying is $1,100 a month, they can renew the lease based on the $1,700 plus 0 for a 1-year lease renewal, or 2% for a 2-year lease renewal, but the basis would be 17. So they would still be able to get a $600 a month rent increase.
The landlord can raise.
That's what we're talking about.
The landlord can raise. Landlord can get rid of the preferential rent regardless of what the New York City Rent Guideline Board rent freeze, decrease, or increase is. Next question, if you can introduce yourself, it's your first meeting.
Stanley Shaw.
Stanley,
Lived
okay.
in the area for like 30 years.
Thank you for coming to the meeting.
How do you get a rent history?
How do you
Get a rent history?
Yeah.
rent history? You can go to the state housing agency. I still call it DHCR, and in fact, the part of the agency that runs rent administration is still called DHCR. And where is the Bronx office?
It's on Halsey Street now.
Okay, and you can also get it online.
Right.
And you want to, thing you want to ask for is a complete rental history. And you have to be very specific about that. This is not as bad as it used to be under Pataki, but often when people go to the agency and ask for a rental history, they give you only the last 4 years. So you want a complete rental history going back to the date that the apartment first became rent stabilized. And you're entitled to that. You might have to insist on it.
Okay.
Let me get
Pat, sorry.
very quickly. What clout does Center Light have because of
they may be the biggest employer in this vicinity, and they certainly are one of the biggest real estate owners. So doesn't that give them a
They
lot
don't, they don't own those Olinville buildings anymore.
They
used
sold them.
They sold them about 3
They're
years
the cause
ago.
of this whole problem, because they sold those buildings to Finkelstein.
Yeah.
So they don't have any
They're not,
clout.
they're not, no.
They don't-
no.
they don't
They
care.
don't own any apartment buildings.
And Kathleen.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Well, first of all, I happen to have background in real estate. I had a expired license in real estate back about 25 years ago. And I passed the New York State broker's test, never got a broker's license, but that's neither here nor there. But I've been to housing court numerous times on my own property that I live in now. But the point is, if someone mentioned that the landlord's making the person buy a stove and refrigerator on a rental, I think that in itself is illegal. Because don't they have to provide a working stove and refrigerator on a rental apartment?
Not necessarily, it depends.
And
If it's
another
a-
thing-
If it's a new tenancy, and that's
No,
what.
I mean on an old tenant. If
Pardon?
it's stove, no, what I mean.
No,
is
if it's a
stove-
renewal, then they can't do it.
No, what I mean is if
Absolutely.
a tenant is living there and they're having a problem with the
They
stove, the
cannot-
stove breaks, don't they have to issue a new stove?
They cannot, if, for a tenant renewing the lease, they can't do what
What
this
she was
woman
referring to
described.
before about the
If they
person
did it.
who
Right.
was forced to buy her own stove and refrigerator. I
If
thought
that was a renewal deal,
Oh, I
and
see,
I
but
think,
also, how do you know if a building was sold legally? By the person, by the landlord to another landlord?
What?
if you
If
have
it
to
was
check
sold legally,
In other words, you have to research it through the Bureau of Land Records, right, correct?
You have to
don't know.
look at the
Author
deed
Avenue,
and,
look at the
you
tax
know,
records.
see who's.
that's
what
above our
type.
pay grade. Ma'am? Yes.
What kinds of actions?
Guys, 1 minute.
So earlier you said that some of the things we could do is call our assembly people
Yes.
and put pressure on them to vote
Yeah,
for the
not a
repeal,
question of voting.
or-
It's not a question of voting, it's a question of, look, the way things work in Albany, you've heard the phrase 3 men in a room? That's the way everything happens in Albany. It will be behind closed doors. Whatever the deal is on 421A or 421A plus improvements to the rent laws, that will be negotiated by the governor, by the Speaker of the Assembly, and the Majority Leader of the State Senate, who's a Republican and who will not support us. And unfortunately, the governor won't support us either. But whatever that deal is, could include improvements to the rent laws. It could include the repeal of the preferential rent loophole. And that can only happen if the leader of the state assembly, Carl Hastie, insists on it and says to the other two guys in the room, and they are men, the other two men in the room, I won't agree to renew the 421A program unless you agree to the following amendments to the rent laws. That's the way things happen in Albany, and that's the only way we can get that kind of change. And as the staff person for Assemblymember Joe Nye said, it can't be just him, it has to be a bunch.
So in
Okay.
addition to calling the assemblymen, including, let's say, Klein and Jonah,
Oh, Klein
what
to senator.
other types of actions can we take that would support?
You can go back to your building and get everyone else to do so. Look, you know, legislators don't hear, it used to be that people, when I first started doing this work, I won't tell you how many years ago, it used to be fairly common that people would write their legislators. And we used to have letter writing parties. And now legislators don't, if a legislator hears from 10 people about a particular bill, that's unusual. Now suppose you are a legislator in Albany and you suddenly get 50 phone calls and 75 letters from your constituents about a particular bill. They will start to pay attention. And that's what you have to do.
Raphael, what
So you
about
might want to put out a flyer.
What about petition.org? Has anyone-
No, not a petition.
I'm just an idea that comes to mind would be having a Bronx or a New York City town, probably Bronx town hall, and inviting the elected officials to be there. You know, a table
All the
of
assemblymen.
all the assemblymen and state senators of the Bronx.
No,
No,
wait. Excuse me, the only way we're gonna get this is if the assembly gets it for us.
Okay.
Oh.
So
That's
just the
the
assembly.
only way that we're gonna get
We'll
this.
strategize.
So the pressure point has to be Democratic members of the state assembly,
Assembly, okay.
okay? The only way we're gonna get this is if Carl Hasty, when they're negotiating this behind closed doors, says to Andrew Cuomo and John Flanagan, I won't do this. I won't renew 421A unless you agree to A, B, and C, changes to the rent laws. That's the only way it's gonna happen. So the pressure point should be Democratic assembly members.
All right, Zia? Hold on, we have a question.
Can we
Zia?
create a web page with the petition?
No.
There's no petition yet. This is,
I wouldn't do a petition, they're not effective.
okay.
Petitions are not effective.
Let me say something.
Phone calls to legislators, letters to legislators are effective. Emails get ignored. Emails pretty much get treated like spam, unless you happen to have the legislators or the staff person's personal email address. If you send an email to an assembly office, you will get a formed letter back saying, thank you for writing my office. You know, and nobody will ever look at it.
I just want to say, we work with we represent our offices. Do not, like, sometimes we get a lot of cards that are like pre-signed, pre-made, and we log them in, at least our office does, we log them in, we record it, but it's not the same weight as a personal letter, a fax, an email to a specific person, your legislative person in Albany specifically, or you send it to us right here, your representatives, we'll get it to our boss's table, okay? That's the only way it goes through, because if we get these massive letters, and the calls, we record the calls as they go through as well. So you call, there's times when it's legislative season, we'll get 1 million calls, and in Senator Ruth Hester Thompson's office, we write the name's person, whether they're a constituent or not, and then we say your vote is recorded, and we let the member know.
Well, Kenny, what about if you go on the website and you send a letter, because I did this with Senator Ruth,
Yes.
and does that
If you
carry
send it
any
to
weight?
if you send it to the Albany Ruth T. You're gonna
Right.
it's gonna go through like 6 hands. I'm telling you, you send it to your legislative director,
Which is
or the chief of staff, or the representatives to the club. Okay, we're gonna do it, and we're on the board, so we're gonna carry the message. But I'm telling you, that's how it works in government. Okay, you can't do it by fax, or we get the petitions. We'll get a stack of petitions, which is a copy of everything. It doesn't have the weight if you do the individual touch. If you say I'm gonna make a call to my legislative office in Albany Monday through Thursday, or in downstate district office Thursday through Friday, that's the only way the legislators get to hear it.
For example, you
Wow.
could ask Assemblyman Joe Nye, why won't you put your name on the bill to repeal the preferential rent loophole as a sponsor? That would be a way for him to show support. All right? And I'll get you the bill number tomorrow, Raphael.
Yeah.
One year, I did form letters, which Michael hated, but I put up a table on Pelham Parkway North, and I put another one on Allerton Avenue, and I got like 500 and something people to fill out a form letter for me. And it actually worked pretty good because, when we took them up to Albany, and when we presented these, and that was Guy Valella, remember him? His eyeballs almost came out of his head. But, it had something to do with rent regs. And it really made an impact on him, because he was always saying, none of this is ever going to affect anybody in my district.
Right.
Well, guess what? It affects everybody in your district.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Oh, sorry,
Gina.
Gina, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a statement. It's not necessarily a question. I just wanted to say, I'm not a housing expert, first of all. So I really, I can't give any information regarding preferential rent. However, and I also don't speak on behalf of the senator, but I do know if there's one thing is for certain, he does care about the community, like I care about the community. I don't live far from here. And if you feel on a personal level as well, you can contact the legislative office as well. But on a personal note, If you feel like you are being overcharged or there's something wrong and you want us to look into, we also can do that as well. So you can call the government office. We have pamphlets over there. And if you want a personal one-on-one kind of conversation with a housing expert within our office, that is possible as well. I just wanted to throw that out there on a more personal basis, because I know we've been mentioning the legislative, which it is important. So if you'd like, we have pamphlets as well. And I know for the assemblyman as well. So I just wanted to make that statement. You can always contact our office as well.
Yeah, Jeff has a great staff.
1250
That's
Water
what I
Street.
can say, he has a great staff.
Yes.
If only he would support us legislatively.
Yeah, but he does have a great staff, and they do tremendous things.
He won't put his name on any of these bills either. Jeff Klein will not put his name on any of these pro-tenant bills. He is not sponsoring a single one of them.
Like I said, I can't speak on behalf of the
Well, I
senator.
can.
Well, you're not him. But
And
do know
I
that-
will acknowledge that he does a great job. His staff does a great job of helping constituents with their problems. But that's not the same thing as supporting us legislatively.
I'm-
The law, we're losing the rent regulation system as we stand here tonight. Every time somebody moves out of a rent-regulated apartment, it goes to market rate, and the people moving into that apartment have no rights. They don't even have a right to an automatic lease renewal. And if the landlord chooses to renew their lease, he can raise the rent by any amount the landlord chooses. And he will not support any of these bills to close those loopholes.
Okay,
I'm the district representative for this area,